you in the race for Weber County Commission seat A. What are your plans to apply your knowledge and ensure Weber County sees sustainable economic growth? James.
Oh, thank you. It's working. Thanks for the positive question. Sheriff, those were hard questions to answer, so they did an amazing job. This is an area that really excites me. When I first came into office, we had an amazing individual doing economic development, but there really wasn't any focus or direction. There wasn't an overarching goal we were trying to accomplish. We were just kind of providing some economic development opportunities. And it became clear that Weber County had fallen behind both Davis, Utah, and Salt Lake County in the last 15 to 20 years. And if we were going to make some real change, we had to be super aggressive. So we started a process from a commission perspective about 2.5 years ago. We started reaching out to our business community, to our community leaders. We brought in consultants to better understand what Weber County possessed, what the strong industries, what the clusters were. And we just had such amazing response. I think we reached out to over 4,700 businesses. We had a tremendous response from those businesses. We worked with EDC Utah, which is the Economic Development Corporation of Utah, and with GOA, the Governor's Economic Development Team, to really work forward and create this amazing plan that we have today. We figured out really quickly that we had two areas that we had to really focus on. Community needs through economic development, and then the actual industrial needs. So we identified the strong clusters, we identified the areas that we had competitive advantages like clusters and workforce. We identified that we really had a need to have quality job attraction, and that's where we focused. And that's where I'll continue to focus. I'm very excited about this plan we have moving forward. Love to spend some time talking to you about it. The state is also very excited about it, but thank you very much.
Thanks, James. Next, Cage Floor.
Thank you, and again, appreciate everybody being here and taking some time out of their evening. This is a question that I have a couple of different experiences with. Number one, as a state legislature, we dealt with the last 12 years. I can tell you what the answer is, at least from a state perspective. If you look at the state of Utah, we're ranked currently #1 in the country for business development. Why is that? I don't think there's any mistake. The reason for that is that we've consistently reduced taxes and we've kept government out of businesses' back pocket, over through taxes or over regulation. I have a completely different perspective on economic development. I don't feel for a second we need to hire consultants to tell us what to do. I believe that private businesses, if properly incentivized through lower taxes, in other words, stay out of their back pocket, will grow. It's either, do you believe that businesses and families do better with those dollars, or do you believe it's better for government to distribute those dollars? I come from the state legislature, I come from a small business, that I feel that I can better allocate those dollars, and I can grow my business and hire people if I have those dollars in my bank account, rather than pay those to a third-party government to tell me how I should operate. The answer is simple. Reduce our taxes, give it to small businesses. We're the highest in sales and property tax in the state. No wonder other counties are way ahead of us. That's the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more with Gage in the thought that the most important thing for economic development is to lower taxes and get government out of the way. It's interesting that I heard some candidates talk about education, how education is the most important thing for a business. I work for a business, one of the top ENR Intermountain firms, that makes $500 million a year. We're based in Davis County instead of Salt Lake County because of property taxes. And you know what? The people with education, they drive to Davis County. We hire people from BYU, we hire people from Weber State, we hire people from the University of Utah. Education, those who are educated will come to a good business. When a business wants to open up shop, the first thing it does is not check the education of the people around where they're going to build a business. They say, is the business feasible? Is it going to make money? And how are my taxes going to be? Those are the first things. Education is important, but we do need to lower taxes, lower regulation, and get out of the way. One of the things that's interesting is, yes, we do have a state legislature who has made it fairly tax-friendly and industrial-friendly here in the state of Utah. But at the same time, I don't like hearing how great our legislature's been, because if you look at the stuff, We just put on the ballot a 33% gas tax increase. We just spent $6.6 million of your money on homeless shelters. Our state legislators voted for that. Check the voting record, so when you have people tell you they're against taxes, please check the voting records. I've been against taxes for 2 years, and longer than that, I spoke out against the tax increase, and that's how we're going to bring economic development to Weber County.
James has asked for 30 seconds, and so we'll give him 30 seconds, and we'll give the other 2 candidates 30 seconds as well. Go ahead, James.
Thank you. I just wanted to really talk briefly about this economic development plan, because we've modeled this plan after the plan that Utah County is using presently, and you've seen the growth in Utah County. It's the same type of plan that Sandy City has been modeling for the last 10 years, and it has had quality economic growth. So this plan has a proven track record. And the business community, as we talk to these business community leaders, they're behind it, and as we talk to our legislators, they're behind it. So this isn't something we've just come up with. There's proven track record with this economic development plan, and we're super excited about moving forward, as is the rest of the community.
Well, I believe we have the experts already in this community. Back when I first started business, we had business people that started Weber County that created their businesses here. Weber County was known as really the start of a number of large businesses that exist today. A lot of those families and people are still in this community. They would love to be part of the answer to economic development involving lower taxes. They would love to have a seat at the table. They currently have no seat at the table. I think you probably know the people I'm talking about. The people in the community, the business people here are willing to give, they're willing to serve free of charge. We just have to ask them, and they're willing to participate.
Thank you.
You know, my middle school basketball team ran the triangle offense, the same as the Chicago Bulls in the 90s. We didn't win a single NBA championship. We can have the same plan as Utah County, we can have the same plan as Sandy, but if their taxes are lower than ours, it's not going to work.
We'll have a chance to applaud all of the candidates when I always appreciate a little bit of humor. I just want you to know, James Coates, that Weber State University received the national championship in cheerleading. Just so you know. All right, question number 2, and we'll start with James Coates, then Gage, then James Eagle. What areas of the county budget would you cut or reduce to lower expenses? James Coates.
So there's a lot of things to look at with the county budget. It's hard to make a specific choice, but I'll tell you a couple that I noticed a couple years ago when I did audit the county budget. At that time, we were spending twice as much on IT per employee as the average engineering firm in the United States. And that wasn't the average large firm where it should be less expensive, that was the average small firm. I don't know all the details behind it, but that seemed rather concerning. In addition, currently speaking, we're spending nearly $250 per employee per year on landline phones. I don't know why we are spending that much on landline phones. We don't spend that much at an engineering firm where people use phones and talk to clients daily. And so there's just a couple things with waste, but I'd also like to see the budget just reviewed. Is everything being bid out? I know recently the newspaper caught this. We just hired LSI to do intergenerational poverty. And then another firm came out and said, hey, that's what we're experts in. Why are you contracting with them? I don't know the full story behind that, but I know it wasn't bid out completely. So or at least that firm said that it wasn't bid out completely, but I think there's a lot of places. I looked at the example that my father said when he became county highway engineer of a small county. I have just about 15 seconds, but with that, because he just teamed up with another larger county, he was able to cut his budget on salt, aggregate, and asphalt nearly in half without cutting a single service and without cutting a single person's pay. And so I think there's a lot of ways that we need to look at, and it's going to take a lot of eyes and a lot of time to find it.
Gage.
Thank you. Great question. Just as a perspective, again, I've overseen budgets at the state. I chaired a committee that dealt with about $2.5 billion of your tax dollars. And guess what? We looked at every line item on that budget for the first 3 weeks of every session. So believe me, budgets can be looked at, budgets can be cut. When the state of Utah went into a recession in 2009, we had 2 choices we could make. either raise taxes by 10% or cut budgets by 10%. We made the decisions, I have a couple of my colleagues with us this evening, that agreed with me that it was not right to raise taxes, so what we did is we cut every budget. I firmly believe that the state of Utah is better today because we made those cuts. We did not grow government, we reduced the size of government. Where we start with Weber County, very simply, I've already stated this, we start at the top. I believe the people at the top are making way too much. There's some people at probably the lower levels that are not making enough. We need to make that shift. We need to pay the people that do the work. If you're hired as a public servant, I believe you should be a public servant. You shouldn't get rich or wealthy on the backs of the taxpayer. So we start at the top, and then we work down from there. We look at every budget on a performance and metric basis, very much similar to what we do in private business and what we do at the state. And we make sure that those dollars are spent wisely, effectively, and for the taxpayer's benefit, or they're not spent. Thank you.
Thank you. James Ebert?
Well, thank you very much. The only thing I would ask is that as we start talking about some of these points, don't fall for talking points. They're so easy. It's so easy to say some of these things. The commission goes through every single line item in a budget. Our budget process is almost 2 weeks straight of 8 hours a day. We go through every line item. We talk to every elected official. We vet every project that comes forward through multiple elected officials and through the commission office. What I will tell you is in my first year out, in our first budget hearing, I made the motion to send everything back and have every department in elected office cut by 1% because we were starting the process of cutting back what we thought maybe was some fat. What we found out is there wasn't a tremendous amount of fat. What had happened over the last 12 to 15 years that on the backs of many of our employees, decisions were made. And those employees were so far under the market, those offices and apartments were functioning at a rate where we were concerned that we were going to lose services. And in the area of law enforcement and corrections and county attorneys and the assessor's office, that's a danger. Those become serious issues. The employees over the last 2 years have basically taken it in the short for about $23 million because we got rid of post-retirement benefits for about $23 million. We made adjustments to the amount of sick leave and vacation that you can hold when you retire at about $2.8 million. We made adjustments in contracts of about $1.4 million. So over this last 3 years, we've got about a $27 million savings to you, the taxpayers, moving that forward. And we're committed to moving in directions where we can leverage technologies to find more efficiencies and save more dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. We're asking for 30 seconds again.
The budget does need to get looked over. I don't want to hammer too hard, but 2 weeks doesn't seem like a really long time for $180 million. I make a lot less than that right now, and my family spends more than 2 weeks reviewing the budget. But with that, we're the highest tax county in the state in property tax, 13% more than Salt Lake, 30% more than Davis, and we have some of the lowest paid employees in a Class 1 or Class 2 county. There's got to be waste there. It can be found. I think Weber County needs a fresh face to look and find that waste, and I do have I just think there is waste to be found.
Gage?
Yeah, I guess if there's talking points, we can have our own opinions, but the facts are stated for themselves. We are the highest in property tax in the state. We are the highest in sales tax. We're the lowest in job growth in most of the counties along the Wasatch Front. I don't think there's any secret why we're the highest and why we're the lowest in job growth. It comes down to taxes. So again, we can let anybody speak to that, but we have to own up to the facts, which are property tax and sales tax hurt business.
So I will tell you their talking points, because there are many things within a tax rate that cause the tax rate to be high or low. If a surrounding county has higher property values, then their tax rates are going to be lower. It depends on what they put in that general fund. Utah County doesn't put libraries in their tax rate. So they have $6 or $8 million that affect that tax rate. Sales tax, we've heard about that before. Do you realize that most of the sales tax that you pay above and beyond isn't the commission? And my opponents know this. You, or the citizens of this county, have voted for a ramp tax twice, for transportation, sales tax 3 or 4 times, and that makes off those sales tax numbers. Understand that the tax rate is a very complicated number that you really need to better understand. It does affect us, and we need to address it. That's why economic development is so important. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a third commission question. You've used your time very well, so you should be all rewarded for your efficiency. Here's the third question. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands. This question is not pointing the finger at any one of these 12 people sitting here. Be sure you understand that. But there is a pervasive feeling across our country, and sometimes even in our state, about the ethics of elected officials. So here's the question. As public concern about the lack of ethical standards of elected officials grows, how have you and how will you become involved to guarantee ethical behavior and accountability within government? Let's see, we're reversing, no, we're going back to this is the third one. So James Ebert first, and then Gage, and then James Coates.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, you know, it's been a little bit of a struggle as I become acclimated to politics. I wasn't a politician, I was in law enforcement, and I'm kind of a black and white guy. And I vote for principle. That's how I've always been. And I think it's important to be able to garner or collect all the facts before you make a decision. And I wasn't up for backdoor rooms, backdoor deals, being pushed or shoved into a decision. And some of you may be aware of some of the things I'm talking about. So I started with transparency. We started on the day I came into office on broadcasting, live streaming all of our commission meetings. We put the agendas out live stream. We put all the financial reports out live stream. We hired an internal auditor to get information out to check all of our controls. We implemented a hiring process we didn't have before. We implemented a process for contracts. So when we hear that LSI got a contract and didn't go through the proper process, that is untrue. It went through the proper process. In fact, we double-checked it. In fact, legal are the ones who reviewed all that. We had concerns with people who had been hired. I have concerns with some other issues. We brought in a new human resource director to address issues that we had across the county with how people were being promoted. I'm an individual that continually will go to the community to get input and to make sure that we're seeing the views of all the citizens. And that's how I live my life. That's how I've always lived my life. I'm committed to being that person, and we will make the right decisions, and I will make the hard decisions that many times aren't made, that politicians, because of political paralysis, will not make.
Gage.
Thank you. It's something that's a very hot topic at the legislature as well. We see that at the federal level, and it has to do with transparency. It has to do with disclosures. I'm a firm believer that just as we do at the state, that any contract, any employee, any public official needs to fully disclose any relationships, any contracts that they may have with prospective, or especially if these contracts are awarded to certain companies and there's relationships set up. Again, it comes down to the public trust. And I think it's better, just like we do at different levels, to err on the side of making sure that you recuse yourself if there's even an appearance of the public interest not being protected. So the end of the day, the real story is you have to have public trust in that elected official, that person you put into office. What's their history? You can look at the history, you can look at their record. Have they demonstrated sufficiently in their past public service or their private service that they've been transparent and wide open with all their disclosures with their business dealers? I appreciate it. Thank you.
So ethics is something that has been my concern. It's one reason I got involved 2 years ago with the tax increase with the Weber County Republican Party. A lot of people talked about the Good Old Boys Club. I'm not accusing anyone of being a part of the Good Old Boys Club, other than saying I'm absolutely not. I will tell you right now that my presence in that Weber County building will make certain people uncomfortable because I don't have friends. I don't have neighbors, I don't have acquaintances or business partners who work there. I don't have any business relationships with Weber County, or have I ever had business relationships with Weber County. I don't have family who works for Weber County entities or takes taxpayer dollars. So I think it's very important that we get a fresh face in Weber County, someone who has not been a part of Weber County government in the past, someone who has not been a part of government in general in the past. I think that's what Weber County residents want. If I'm wrong, absolutely. There is a lot of choices up here. I would happily be neighbors with the guys on either side of me. But I'm telling you right now, I personally believe that we need a fresh face and a fresh perspective in Weber County government.
Thank you. That concludes the questions.
Thank you, James Ebert. I just want to say, first of all, it's been a unique privilege for me to serve you as your Weber County Commissioner. This is an amazing community. It's an amazing county. We have so many opportunities moving forward right now. We're on the cusp of really strengthening our community through economic and community development, and we have plans to move this forward. The plan that the state recognized as the most robust economic development plan is just a very fledgling start. And you will see a return on that. Our community development plan, you will see a return on that. And I agree with Matt. It's unfortunate that we were put in a situation, as far as financial, that we had to make extremely difficult decisions. I'm a person who makes those decisions. I'm a grinder. I'll work. I work. Because we're going to move this county forward. And we're going to move it because it's the best county, I think, along the entire Wasatch Front. I've worked over the last 3.5 years to improve transparency, to get that economic development plan, get that community development plan. I believe that we need to restore trust back into the commission, and I work every day to do that. I'm James Ebert. I appreciate your time tonight, and I appreciate being able to serve you for the last 3.5 years.
So, sitting around looking at the county website to see who had filed for commissioner. I knew we had an incumbent who had raised our taxes. I just saw a couple other names that I didn't know. So one of them was a state legislator. So I went to utahgrassroots.org and I looked up a voting record. And I wasn't too thrilled with it. And I said, we need more limited government in Weber County than that has to offer. It's not to say it was terrible. I'm just saying I felt we needed something more. There was another name on there, Neely Adams. He's in the back right now in the Sheriff's Department. He was a conventional candidate like me, and I didn't know Neely very well, but I felt like with the two that I saw, you guys needed a choice. I needed a choice. Quite frankly, I wanted to have a choice, and there were hundreds of people who spoke out against the tax increase. They would probably make better commissioners than me, but none of them filed to run for commissioner. So I am your choice that is not a politician that has been down at the state for 12 years. I am your choice that has not raised taxes at the county level, that has not raised taxes at the state level. I am that different choice. James Coates, Commissioner.
Thank you, and let me just say thanks again for being here. For me, the answer is simple. It may be selfish, but I'm running because I love Weber County. As a fifth-generation Weber County resident, as a small business owner that we go back to 1914 that I've now taken over, I understand small business. I understand what it takes to make a payroll. As a legislature, I understand that it takes a compromise between business and legislative experience to make good business decisions for government. Number one reason I'm doing this is for my kids and my grandkids and for the future. I had great opportunities when I started my business. I had great opportunities when I went to high school. I don't see those same opportunities available in Weber County as we move from number 2 in the state when I grew up to number 6 or 7. To me, being 6 or 7 is not acceptable. We need somebody with the business experience. We need somebody that can talk to the legislature because Weber County depends very much upon what happens at the state level. With 4 new incoming people, I think it's imperative we have somebody with some legislative experience that has relationships at the state level. Thank you.